This meeting of the Eau Claire City Council will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Brewster.
Here.
Gregor.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Imboga.
Present.
Miller.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Schoen.
Here.
Serrano.
Here.
Worthman.
All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday, April 28th meeting of the Eau Claire City Council. This is our legislative session. And I do want to read a brief statement, before we begin our legislative session this afternoon. I'd like to address the announcement made today that our city manager, Stephanie Hirsch, is resigning from her position after 4 years of service for our community. And I want to thank Stephanie for her tireless dedication to our community and her desire to care for our city. Stephanie's incredible love for her hometown of Eau Claire was a gift to every resident of our community. Deputy City Manager Dave Solberg will serve as acting city manager and can respond to immediate needs of internal and external partners. And we have many great opportunities ahead of us as a city, and some of those items are on our agenda tonight to move forward, and it's time to get to work on our agenda, so thank you. I first want to begin with our consent agenda, which some folks in the audience may be here for that. It's items number 1 through 14 in the agenda, and if folks don't have a copy, there are copies in the back of the room of our agenda, or there should be copies left. But basically, it's like the first 2 pages of our agenda. So please know that if your item was one of those, like after the vote on the consent agenda, it is you're free to leave the meeting, but you're also welcome to stay. But those items have moved forward, and that is unless a council member or council members want to remove any items from the consent agenda. And Council Member Imboga, do you have any items?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I would like to move agenda 14.
Okay. So for separate consideration? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we can address that one separately. So are there any other items that council would like to remove for separate consideration from the items 1 through 14 on the consent agenda? Okay, well, I think we should take up, all the items, with the exception of 14, as a consent agenda item. So on a motion by Councilmember Serrano, seconded by Councilmember Brewster, the consent agenda has been moved with minus the item 14. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing no, there is.
Just waiting to vote, sorry.
Okay. So seeing none, City Clerk, please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Brewster.
Aye.
Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Okay, and the consent agenda has passed unanimously. And now we'll move on to item 14, which is resolution canceling the city council meeting scheduled for Monday, May 25th, 2026. And Councilmember Imboga, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. The for the last 4 years I've been in city council, we have been, this agenda has been on the business agenda. Just from legal point of view, I want to ask our city attorney, why today is on the consent agenda?
City Attorney Nick?
Yeah, consent or business agenda is really not a legal distinction. You're approving all of them. It's just whether the item becomes routine, and I guess kind of by your question, this item has become routine. It's a Monday that's falling on a national holiday on Memorial Day. So most operations and businesses are closed, including City Hall. So we're putting it in front of you to cancel it because our ordinance otherwise calls for that meeting to be held. So it's up to City Council whether you care to hold it or not, but since you routinely cancel this one, if and when it falls on Memorial Day, and also typically the second meetings in December that are on or near holidays, they show up on your agenda to take that action.
Okay, thank you for that. So on a motion by Councilmember Worthman and seconded by Councilmember Miller, this item is moved. Is there any discussion on item number 14 on canceling our meeting on May 25th? Okay, thank you. So seeing no discussion on that, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Okay, so that item passes unanimously. Thank you. So now we're on to the business agenda. So item number 15 is a resolution approving the 2026-2030 Energy Future Collaboration Work Plan. And we have Planner Kuzma here to present on that item. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, council members. With me, I also have Julie Toney from Xcel Energy here to help me present and answer any questions that you all have about the work plan. So we're here to present about the Energy Future Collaboration Work Plan. This is between the City of Eau Claire and Xcel Energy, and the purpose is to advance our shared energy goals. So what are those goals? So the City of Eau Claire has, they're looking to achieve carbon neutrality for the municipality and the community by 2050, as well as 100% renewable energy for municipal operations and the community by 2050. And Julie, if you want to speak to Xcel's goals.
Sure, I can do that. And of course, Xcel Energy has our goals across our entire company to have carbon-free electricity by 2050. And then we also have our goals to have net zero natural gas by 2050 as well. So.
Okay, and then I think of importance to note is that Xcel Energy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but you were the first utility in the country to announce a goal of 100% carbon-free by 2050. So just an extra note there. So with these shared goals, the City of Eau Claire and Xcel Energy, they've realized that the best way to achieve these goals is through mutual understanding and collaboration. So in that spirit, the two parties on October 8th, 2019 entered into an Energy Future Collaboration MOU. And that MOU is meant to guide public officials such as yourself, city staff, and Xcel Energy in implementing our shared goals and visions and projects as well. So the MOU is in your council packet tonight, and although it's not something we'll be able to discuss, it is in there for reference. So the MOU, in order to implement it, it calls for the development of a work plan, and that is specifically to outline deliverables. The first work plan was covered the time period of 2021 to 2023, and it had some very notable successes, and I'll just cover those briefly. But the first is it played a hand in the Sonnentag Center. So the work plan called for leveraging investments pledged by the city for the event center to provide clean energy, operational savings, and resiliency. And then a second notable project is the work plan called for collaboration on evaluations of options to use large-scale solar resources, specifically local solar resources, to support our renewable energy goals and those goals of community partners. So the Chippewa Sun Solar project was developed, and the city, as well as UWEC and Pablo Group, are all subscribers to that project. Anything you'd like to add? I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, you covered it really well, but that's the idea of this whole thing, is how we can work together over these years to kind of lay out on the work plan things that we can look at together. And then as different things or new technologies or new things on either of our parts come up, we can work together and try to do what we can to make either the whole community better or to identify certain pockets where we can help them together promote certain programs or anything like that. So it's been working really well.
All right, so we've been working to update the work plan to cover the time period from 2026 to 2030. And, I should advance the slide, thank you. And so city staff, as well as staff and leadership from Xcel Energy, has collaborated to update the plan. The plan is in the council packet, so you can see all of the great potential projects we have. But topics include, and I won't go over all of these, but community development, equity, data access and transparency. We have things about new tech. So a lot of exciting projects to look forward to. And then the last thing to note is that SAC has been involved with the work plan. They've reviewed drafts, provided input and approval ultimately on April 15th of 2026. So we're looking for your approval this evening, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take those.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you both, for being here and for the presentation. Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Worthman?
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for ongoing work. I know this has been a lot, so and thank you for being here this evening. I wanted to ask about the electric vehicle charging program. And I think especially given, as I understand it, that Xcel Energy is going to renew efforts to try to strengthen state policy, probably through the Public Service Commission, policies to advance more residential charging infrastructure in the coming 5 years. And I just want to get your take on, does this language here, I know it focuses a lot on city operations and city vehicles fleet, but also I see here this 10% registered EVs goal that we have as an entire community, and I want to be sure that we're in a place where we can support Xcel Energy as a community if in fact and when those kinds of policies are advanced.
I can take that. I think, agreed, 100%, and advocacy is certainly part of something that we work on all the time, and I think we work on that together, whether we're at things like the Chippewa Valley Rally together or each of us in our own separate legislative efforts. The plan itself is meant to be kind of all-encompassing, so I would say that last bullet, explore additional ways to support transportation electrification goals, could encompass things like that. If you really feel that that's not specific enough, we could possibly consider adding another bullet that specifically talks about working on advocacy together. I don't see an issue with that either. So I think it can be covered under that bullet, but if you feel strongly, we could have staff bring that back and work on it before you approve. So does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's kind of for the entire body to decide, but I'm excited to know that Xcel is looking at how to reinstate some of the charging rebates and programs, like offering kilowatt hour incentives for homeowners with electric vehicles. Like some of those things have gone away, But I'm excited to know that Excel also wants to go back into that in the coming years. And so I just want to be sure that we're prepared to
support.
and
That's
help
fair.
and help lift that to the Public Service
That's
Commission
fair.
if and when it happens.
Right. One other
So-
thing to remember here in Wisconsin that kind of ties into that is a lot of the residential incentives, though, come through Focus on Energy, not directly from the utilities themselves. So although we're intimately involved with that in some of the other states where the regulatory atmosphere is different, not the Focus on Energy model, we are directly involved with that. But indirectly, we also work very much with Focus on Energy and helping to suggest or be part of some of the efforts that they have. So definitely something we can all work on together, encouraging at a state level that they start adopting those programs a little bit more again. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Brewster for a question.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted just a small, tiny little piece of clarification on Excel's 2050 plan. Net zero gas, is that just achieved with offsets? Is that, or is there a?
No, that's
Yeah.
a fair question, and I can provide more details on that at some point. But it really is to make our natural gas system cleaner all the way around. So natural gas kind of has two pieces. The actual natural gas itself is made up of methane. So strengthening our system itself at the points where things may evaporate, whether it's actual joints or town border stations or at people's meters or whatever. So tightening and strengthening that system to not have any methane leaks or, that type of thing, to be less, and then to also make sure that we are supplying more clean gas by purchasing that or getting that from cleaner suppliers who are also working on the same thing. The other piece of that is to help educate our customers, because that's where the carbon piece comes in. When natural gas is burned, then that's what makes carbon, if that makes sense. So educating people on either ways to be more efficient so it avoids that burning or that pollution, or helping educate on ways to support electrification as time goes on. That's also another way. So does that help? Yeah. Okay, you bet.
Okay, we're still in just the question phase here. So I do have a question actually about, just the work plan does have, a couple of things in it that we've been maybe working on for a while that are challenges. Like one of them being under electric vehicles, electric bus charging is referenced. And then on the next page, there's, under efficiency, there's, I guess it's the fifth bullet point down, there's a reference to energy management software and building automation systems. So I just kind of wanted to throw out those things that we are aspiring to do perhaps. And my question would be, where are we at on those? Or what do you foresee as being possible in the next 5 years, with technology and budgets in mind? So.
Okay, sure. So I can, in terms of the buses, so we have two electric vehicles in our fleet, I think a third as well. They're not buses, so in order to electrify the buses, that I spoke with our transit director today, it would take a lot of research to make sure that it's a good investment. But this is looking at just upgrades to the city's CMF, the central maintenance facility, to prepare for the possibility of bus charging. So I think, and it's really just about exploring it, looking into opportunities and making sure that even if we can't do it today, if an opportunity presents itself, we can take advantage of it. And I think the best way to do that is to get it on both of our radars so we can leverage some shared expertise with Excel. In terms of the building automation, it's kind of the same. We don't have an energy manager for our buildings. So we don't at this time have a large staff to support building automation and the undertaking that it would be to get that set up. But again, if it's something on the radar, if funding were to come available or there was any kind of opportunity that we could take advantage of, it's good to have it in writing and good for us to start exploring it where we can.
We could then mention the It's
True.
not quite that, but it's the data part of it,
Yep,
working together on that.
that's a good point. You want to?
I was just going to mention, so along those lines, not so much the actual EMS systems or the energy management, systems for the buildings, but some of the data processes that come out of the city's energy use and things like that. We are actually helping fund an intern coming up so that the city is able to do some more of that work. So again, looking at opportunities and ways we can work together to help everyone move forward, so.
All right. Well, thank you. Unless there are any other questions, we can move this item. So yeah, thank you. I think you've answered the questions for now.
Okay,
Thank
Appreciate you being here and
thank you.
presenting. So, by a motion made by council members Schoen, or Vice President Schoen, and Councilmember Mboga, this item is moved. And is there any discussion on the work plan? Okay, so Councilmember Worthman.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to thank Excel and city staff, our SAC, Sustainability Advisory Committee, for multiple iterations of looking at this and working on this. I know a lot has gone into it. I think at this point, the electric vehicle section is high level enough that I think if there are efforts to once again offer or advocate for state policies or PSC or focus policy to support more electric vehicles in our community, I think this allows us as a council to be engaged on that, whether we do resolutions or things like that. I think this allows for that. So I'm not going to make any additional amendment to this. I do think it's important to point out, though, that this 10% registered EVs goal for our community, that's a lot. And that's a lot over the next 5 years. So if we're going to meet that, and I think we should be working on trying to meet that, it's going to take some of those programs that help people see the value of switching from gas-driven to hybrid or fully electric. It's going to take programs and incentives to help do that. And some of it is as simple as helping to retrofit your garage with a charger and it can be $500 to retrofit your garage to be able to plug in your vehicle. That's a cost that people, could have some support with. So I'm hopeful that this offers enough for that. There is one piece of this that's missing, and I don't entirely know where this would go, but that is around AI data centers. And this is going to be a huge topic coming up for us in this year. And it relates to the energy, but also thinking about fairness in energy and how do we as a community also look out for our residents and their utility bills while working with Excel on their goals. I think that's a piece that's missing here, but we don't have a policy yet on AI data centers and how that's going to work. But it has a huge electrification component to it, obviously. And this plan does not speak much to that more specific need. And so we may need to revisit this when we have a full policy and we have an idea of where we want to go. But I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to also, like Councilmember Worthman, thank SAC and Excel and the city working together. Just want to point out when the City Council first took up the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050 back in 2018, it's worthwhile to have lofty long-term goals because 2050 from 2018 is 32 years. But now we're 8 years later, so we're already a quarter of the way there. So I just want to see us as a community to continue to make lofty long-term goals because time passes and we're a quarter of the way there already. So I appreciate the continued work towards these goals.
Thank you. Vice President Schoen.
Thank you, Council President. I, like my colleagues, want to thank all the parties that assisted in creating this plan and spent time drafting it and bringing it forward to council for consideration. One of the things I was most impressed by, which I was going to comment on, I had it noted, but it came up during questions anyways, was the fact that Excel is interested in directly supporting the city through an intern in 2027. I think that's really worth noting, and it's something that I don't see very often in these types of work plans, and so I just wanted to call that out specifically and thank Excel for that type of direct support. I think that's rare and important, and I really appreciate our partners being willing to directly collaborate with us that way.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Let's see, I guess I would just like to say, I mean, one of the things that I saw in actually going back to the original agreement, there's a section on regional collaboration, and I think that kind of goes back to some of the things that have been raised about data centers, how we need to work together as a region around that. And I know that there's other communities in our region that are members of this same program in partnership through Excel, like I believe City of Menominee maybe, but, and I'm meeting with their mayor next week, so we'll see how we can collaborate regionally in that sense. But I think it's a great program, a great collaboration. So I do want to move toward an actual vote on this, since it has been moved and we've discussed it. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Gregor.
Aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is item number 16 on the agenda. It's resolution making an appointment to fill the vacant Aldermanic District 2 seat on the Eau Claire City Council. And this item is postponed from the April 20th meeting. And so I will be just kind of presenting on this. So we have two candidates that are still in the running for this that have gone through the application process. Those names are Shelley Janke and Joyce Worth. And both have, we did, I guess at the council meeting that I was not at, narrow it down to them. So they have submitted their applications, so those are available in writing in our packet. And then they also contributed videos, which are on our city's YouTube channel, which you should definitely subscribe to. It's getting some good attention. And then we also have heard from the public, various communications of support for the options that we have in front of us. So we do have, this is one of those things where the council, votes to appoint, but we use a little bit of a different way of doing it, where we actually have little slips of paper that we can pass around. But first we have discussion. So I think I'm ready to move the item so that we can get into that. So on a motion by Councilmember Otto and seconded by Councilmember Reed, this item is moved. Is there any discussion around our appointment of a candidate for District 2? Councilmember Otto.
Thank you. I think I'm not speaking just for myself, but personally, we have such excellent candidates, and this is not a choice between the lesser of two evils, but the better of two greats. And I'm honored that people think so highly of this institution that such high-quality candidates would come forward. So I appreciate both of you for coming forward and stepping up to apply.
Councilmember Serrano.
Thank you, Council President Gregor. Kind of what my colleague, Councilmember Otto, echoed, but I have a great appreciation for the patience and the process that everybody has followed here. We had 3 applicants to start with. They submitted their written information, then they were asked to make videotaped statements of both their initial sort of presentation and then answers to a set of questions. They've been attending the meetings since then. We had, a postponement on this decision. So I really want to thank them for the time and energy that they've already put into this, and really, really appreciate their putting themselves forward.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Serrano. Does anyone else like to speak? I know we have a couple of us that weren't at that meeting too, so. Yeah, and just to clarify too, a little bit further, the candidate will need 6 votes because that's a majority of our body here. So anyone else have anything they want to share about the candidates or the decision in front of us? So I actually have a couple little notes. So I had the opportunity, obviously, to watch the videos and read the materials and everything. I think, one of the most important things for me is the fact that this is a district seat, and it requires a lot of constituent services. I feel like, obviously at-large members provide a lot of that for folks, but it kind of gets honed down onto the neighborhood level or onto the district level there, where it is a lot of work and it's a huge commitment. So I appreciate that we have folks that want to step up in their neighborhoods and their districts to do that. And I think familiarity with the district and all the intricacies, will come with the job, but there's a lot of benefit to, having, spent time in the city or in that district as well. And I feel like for me, the candidate that stands out the most is Joyce Orth, just because I feel like the focus on service and communication and really supporting just being part of a team that is supporting an entity for so many years, like the school district in Altoona, and just so many of the other experiences is just really is important to me, and really helps me lean in that direction. Although it's I feel like both candidates are extremely qualified, and just I'm very grateful as the rest of the council has expressed that we have such a hard choice ahead of us here. So happy to hear from others. Those are sort of my initial thoughts. If there's any other input from anybody.
I have a.
Oh yeah, Councilmember Mboga.
Thank you, Council President. We are at 10 today. So if we are at a tie, what would happen, Steve?
Yeah, City Attorney Nick.
If and when, Larry. So how about we take a vote first, Councilmember Mboga, and then we'll see. We may spend all my legal thinking on hypotheticals, but again, you can take as many votes as you want. You have to get to 6. I'll be handing out ballots here in a little bit. Reminder that you need to put your name on top, because these are not secret ballots. They'll be kept, they'll be read of, and then fill in the candidate name either for Orth or Jenke.
I'm gonna quickly go to Councilmember Miller, and then, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I was just going to say, since we are at full body again, I call the question and move to the vote.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and I did just want to clarify one other thing, and that is that the whoever is appointed would, their first council meeting would be May 11th, but they could be sworn in before that and take office and take on the responsibilities, or it could, take the oath of office earlier. So they can get to work. And there's plenty of work to do. So thank you for calling into question. So that would be just our city attorney handing out the ballots at this point. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Reed, fourth. Otto, fourth. Imboga, Jenke. Schoen, fourth. Gragert, fourth. Johnson, Jenke. Miller, Jenke. Worthman, fourth. Brewster, fourth. Serrano, fourth. So that is 7 for Orth and 3 for Jenke.
Okay, thank you, City Clerk. And so that vote was, 7 to 3 in support of Joyce Orth. And so I think I could probably just move directly to do something.
I'll make a motion to amend the resolution.
Okay. Yeah, microphone.
I'll make a motion to amend the resolution to include the name of Joyce Orth for council vacancy.
I'll second that.
Okay, so with a motion by, or amendment motion by Councilmember Worthman, seconded by Councilmember Brewster, we'll have a vote to complete the resolution. Clerk, please call the roll. Or is that?
Councilmember Imboga,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Otto,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schoen,
Aye.
Serrano,
Aye.
Worthman,
Aye.
Brewster,
Aye.
Gragert,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
All right, well, that passes unanimously. Congratulations, Joyce, to your appointment to District 2, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
I have a point of order,
Yep.
and perhaps a question for our city attorney. Because of the process in which Councilmember Worthman and Brewster brought that forward,
Oh,
it
we
was
still
to
need to-
amendment
oh, just
to
to
the
amend it,
resolution. Do we
okay.
still need to vote on the actual resolution?
Yeah, so
Make
it
it
sounds like we
official?
do, yeah.
Miller,
Yeah,
Aye.
Otto,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schoen,
Aye.
Serrano,
Aye.
Worthman,
Aye.
Brewster,
Aye.
Gragert,
aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Imboga,
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously in its finality there, so thank you for the correction. So we will move forward to the next agenda item, number 17. This is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding and agreement regarding operation and maintenance of the stormwater detention facility located within an existing utility easement in the plat of Forest Glen Estates. And we have Director Ness from our engineering department here to present on that item. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. In August of 2018, the City of Eau Claire Council approved a final plat and subdivision infrastructure agreement with Forest Glen Estates. It was formerly known as Westover Woods, just off of Westover Road and west of State Street. The provisions within that included a utility easement for a stormwater facility that was to be dedicated to the city. That facility was designed to handle the stormwater related to that development, but also designed to handle stormwater related to Forest Glen Court, the roadway and the runoff from the public right-of-way. The MOU that is before us outlines the operation and maintenance related to that stormwater detention facility. This is a MOU that is new to council and new to the city, but it will become kind of a standard MOU moving forward with subdivision infrastructure agreements and our stormwater facility to help us meet our MS4 compliance regulations and requirements. So I am presenting this to you tonight in a more formal way, but moving forward, you'll probably see these on your consent agenda just to as there's going to be quite a few of them moving forward, I believe. And as we identify and make improvements to existing ponds, public and private, we'll have MOUs related to those facilities to help us meet those MS4 requirements. So with this, if there's any questions related to the MOU, I can take those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Director Nesser. We have a question from Councilmember Otto.
Thank you, Council President Gregor. Just looking at the title of the resolution, it mentions city manager. Is it safe to assume, given the recent changes, that interim city manager means the same thing?
I would defer to City Attorney Nick on that.
Yes, you have a city manager, whether it's, acting, we update names, whether it's, council president's changing or city manager is changing, so no need to change the resolution in that regard.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And by a motion made by Council Members Serrano and seconded by Councilmember Brewster, this item is moved. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
All right, and that item passes unanimously. All right, so the next item is number 18, resolution approving and extending the employment agreement of the city manager. And we do have our HR Director Riepel here, but I feel like we could also entertain a motion. So Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. I would move to postpone this item indefinitely.
Okay. Is there
Second.
a second to that? Sounds like that was from Councilmember Johnson to second. So is there any discussion on the postponement? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
And that item was postponed indefinitely, so thank you. Our next item is agenda item 19, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a development agreement with ABF Ingredients North America Incorporated regarding city support of a new manufacturing facility in the Gateway Northwest Industrial Park, and presenting is Director White. Welcome.
Thank you, Council President Gregor and council members. Earlier this afternoon, I did receive a forwarded email from a resident sent to the council with additional 7 questions related to the project. And it was asked that if we could address those, it'd be possible. So I didn't have time to send this out ahead of time. So I have the 7 questions here, and I will respond with the responses for each of those questions before we carry forward. The first question was where specifically will the facility's water be sourced from, and what is the current available capacity? The Ole facility will draw from the municipal water system at a rate of 200 gallons per minute, or excuse me, 200,000 gallons per day. The overall system capacity of the city is approximately 20 million gallons per day, and I'd point out that is the physical structure capacity. That is not the aquifer capacity, which is This is a fraction of the aquifer's capacity. This is simply how much we are built out and able to handle, treat, and pump in a day. And the average use is currently 9.5 million. That sees us spike to the 14 million gallon per day range during the summer when we're watering lawns and filling swimming pools, et cetera. This number represents 1% of our overall treatment capacity, or of our overall pumping capacity, and 2% of our available capacity, and is aligned with the resolution passed by council in 2023 governing water use by industrial users. The second question, what is the total expected daily wastewater discharge volume at each of the 3 phases, and what are the BODs, the total suspended solids, and pH characteristics? We don't have the individual phase numbers, so I'll reiterate the total wastewater discharge from the project at full build out, 199,000 gallons per day. The city wastewater treatment facility has approximately 12 million gallons per day of overall capacity and is currently averaging about 7 million gallons per day of use. So there are about 5 million gallons per day of available capacity within the treatment center. I did not pull out the BODs, or actually I'll specify. This discharge volume is about 1.7% of the overall capacity of the plant, and about 2.8% of the available capacity left that is unused within the facility. The Utilities Department has reviewed the BODs, which is your bio-oxygenation densities, the total suspended solids, which is TSS, and pH balance. They've reviewed it a number of times by our chemists and our specialists within the Utilities Department. It is well within the parameters of our facility to handle, requires no upgrades, no changes in operation of any kind. This is actually, it sounds like large numbers, but it's actually a minimal volume of increase based on our overall capacity for water and sewer. The third question was, has the Eau Claire's municipal wastewater treatment plant been independently assessed for its capacity to absorb this additional load? Who pays for upgrades if needed? City utility staff reviews this. Our division chemists and biologists and technicians are more familiar with this facility than anybody else. So they reviewed the capacity as it is. The city does go through periodic reviews of their facility capacity to plan for growth by outside consultant. The last one was done, I believe, in the 10 to 15 year range ago. The consultant made a number of recommendations to be implemented over time in phases to keep up with projected city growth. The city is on a plan to implement these changes in phase growth patterns as they progress, and they have kept up with the schedule to this point. So they are planning for future growth and future capacity based on independent recommendations that are done periodically, and confirming that there will be no upgrades to the facility in any way to handle the discharge from this project. The only upgrade you'll see is just the typical mainline water and sewer extensions that would serve any type of project. These are not facility upgrades, they're just simply additional piping to handle the flow from a new site. The fourth question was, what contractual obligations require the company to install and maintain on-site pre-treatment systems if discharge exceeds municipal standards? Ole will have to submit their application to the industrial pre-treatment program. It's required of all industrial projects. It identifies the volume of their discharge, what is contained in their discharge. It will be reviewed by the City Utilities Department, and there will be required standards to be met to meet the pre-treatment if needed. And that is a standard project that has to go by any industrial project in the community. So this is a standard process that every industrial project has to go through. Number 5, what odor mitigation measures are required by the development agreement, and are they enforceable? Has an independent environmental impact assessment been completed and made available for the public review? We have not done an independent environmental impact assessment as it was defined there. The site was evaluated through a phase 1 environmental analysis, a wetlands delineation, and endangered species determination, all well prior to advancing to this stage of the project. Ole will be required to comply with all state regulations, required emissions that govern emissions releases through the DNR for any manufacturing facility in the state. And they will also have to meet all of our zoning standards as regards to light pollution, noise control, et cetera. Again, after touring the facility in Hamburg, we've witnessed firsthand that this is a company that is responsible in their operation, sustainable in their operation, and strives to be a good corporate citizen. This facility in Hamburg, 100 feet from a residential facility and in the middle of a huge metro area, controls and contains all of its operations within its facility. So it is in line with what should be seen in a light industrial park. I also did some measuring when referenced about residential units. The residential neighborhoods are into the east, 4,700 feet according to our GIS map, so about 3/4 of a mile away. We're about 3/4 of a mile away to the north, to the west, miles away from the nearest single unit, and about the same to the south. So there is a sizable buffer within this industrial park around there, and we anticipate no issues from any type of emissions or smell or odor that would be offensive to the housing that is in that area. Number 6, what protection exists for Eau Claire if the company proceeds with phase 1 but not phase 2 or 3, leaving a partially built industrial campus on 70 acres of city land? I did want to clarify, the land is owned by a 501c3 nonprofit corporation board that's governed by 3 members, and it is owned separately from the city. They make their own standalone decisions on the land. If phase 1 is the only phase that is completed, the contract, the DA, does provide for specific remuneration in terms of a penalty fee of $200,000 to cover what would have been their share of the Venture Drive extension utilities based on the frontage of their property on that shared services. They would be required to pay that back to the city. They would own the site. It would be still taxed and assessed as a industrial site of 70 acres with $14 million in improvements and a guaranteed value on the front stage or in the phases of stage 1. It would be up to the company as the owner to develop or redevelop or spin off the balance of the space within that industrial park. The drought, number 7 was, are there drought or climate contingency provisions? Who bears the cost if regional availability is contained or is constrained or in future decades? That is also addressed as well. Section 9, subparagraph D, addresses the issues of the city's powers to protect our residents in the event of water shortage. It identifies they have police and emergency powers that preserve life and ensure that water for our residents is paramount and forward in the process of addressing water, some sort of a water critical shortage, whether it's to a climatic weather event or some other unforeseen catastrophe. It does provide some options to allow or for the city to work with the property owner to maybe look for a well drilled or some sort of alternate water source for their site. But it is up to this legislative body to be able to determine and ultimately prescribe and vote what would be appropriate assistance and what would be an appropriate direction to help them find some alternative water uses. It should an unforeseen catastrophe occur that it limits our availability of water. So those were the 7 questions that were brought before us. We're happy to answer any additional questions if the council has any that were not addressed last night. We do have 2 members of the OLI team are here, the gentlemen who were at last night. Be happy to answer any questions as well.
Yeah, thank you, Director White. Are there any questions from council? So we can, Vice President Schoen?
Thank you, Council President Gregert. I did have one question, and I know we talked last night a little bit about some of the concerns we heard from constituents and community members around this specific development itself, which was great. And I'm wondering, one of the questions that I think maybe remains for some people in the community is just the process and feeling like this came about really quickly. So I'm wondering, Director White, if you might be able to help just for the sake of everyone in council chambers and council, understand sort of the typical pace and process and how these types of developments unfold.
Absolutely. So these come through, or this particular project came through as a lead from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Their process is to submit for an RFP. They give a rough framework of what a company is, what they do, in very broad terms, some basic capacities that they require for a site. And then the city has, or a community that wants to respond, has a limited amount of time to put a response in. So we received the RFP from the WEDC in October of 2022. We put together a proposal to them and was submitted. We were selected to start seeing some initial reviews by the company's corporate site selector and some of their senior leadership. The process typically will see several site visits where they are analyzing the site. They are providing more information to the communities that have been narrowed down on the list. When you're talking about these types of projects, they can start nationwide. We know that this one started with several states within the Midwest that were all vying and presenting proposals for the same project. Criteria win those communities down, and then they provide a little more information as they move forward. We still work under a project name until a community reaches a point where they are a likely candidate or one of the very final candidates. Then we learn who the company is, and we'll start be able to do some internal due diligence. WEDC has an NDA that is signed to go along with these to help protect the identity of the company. And again, there's a number of reasons why you see NDAs signed. Oftentimes they're in a very competitive environment, and their competitors finding out where they're looking at, what they're doing, could have very negative impacts on their ability to conduct business. In the case of Ole, you have another issue is that they have an existing small facility. When a company's existing facilities find out, hey, they're looking at other communities, suddenly are people worried about their jobs, and it creates a whole slew of internal issues with another existing site. The NDA was reviewed by our legal department, and we made adjustments to the NDA language from the state to ensure that it conforms to municipal law. And then we proceed forward with the review process. This project did have a longer gap. It was related to another project site in another area that had to have some issues resolved related to construction that saw this kind of take a step back for a time period. Once they resolved those issues and we're at the point where we can move forward, we moved into starting to communicate and talk about what the final deal would look like on this space. We did have, in this case, we had 2 closed sessions with council to get governance and guidance from council on the negotiation parameters of this project. So that helped formulate what we put together in terms of the DA. There's still a lot of vetting process goes through. The state does a vetting process. We look and vet out at a local level as well. A lot of looking and reconfirming the data, what their waste streams are, what their water usage are, what their power usages are, to just really confirm that the site meets their requirement. These are very long processes. These are long periods of time. I've not worked one less than a year in terms of a large project industrial expansion, and that one was considered very fast. This is definitely the longest one I've ever worked on in my career at 3.5 years, but this is not an unknown process. And then we worked with the company on the front end, looking to see how they want to notice the community. You know, when we let them know that when the public notice comes forward and it goes before council for any type of decision, they will be revealing who they are. Not just an LLC. We've seen that with data center projects and LLC that's carried on, but we would reveal who Ole is, who ABF Ingredients North America is, and identify who the company is and what they're about. So we worked with them and our team to help craft out how to release that on the forefront of there. It was, again, on a very kind of a shorter notice. A lot of their time kind of accelerating on the tail end was there were so many delays in the middle that they really needed to advance the project forward once they had the issues resolved with the construction on their other project, and this allowed them to start moving forward, and that eventually sees us coming here. The land agreement deal is done separately, as I mentioned last night. It's done through the board, through the Gateway Industrial Park Board. They have approved that land grant deal, and it's contingent on this going forward. When should council approve the project, the land will close under that contract, and then they will move forward to closing very quickly. And then actually this week is their schedule, and then moving forward to start the construction process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. Councilmember Worthman.
Thank you, Council President. Director White, I wanted to pick up on that question that Councilmember Schoen asked, which is, for me, around how much time the public and the folks that we serve have a chance to hear about this project, understand it, be able to weigh in with questions, and have a better understanding of what all is entailed here. And I think what I'm struggling with is, we were in closed sessions over a 3-year period, a couple of them at least, but the public only necessarily knows, as of I think it was last week, that this company is coming. And I suppose it's a 2-part question, which is, on something that is this large, which is, as large as the downtown redevelopment, Haymarket Landing, bigger probably, is there a reason that we couldn't have more lead time announcing that this was coming forward, like we do with an ordinance change or some of our bigger votes where we give 2 weeks notice or something? Is there a reason that we couldn't do that with more lead time for the community to essentially kind of weigh in and have their perspectives heard?
No, absolutely. That was definitely something that we talked to the company about and talked to the WEC about. Some of that was their original intent was actually to try and address this process much earlier in the construction year, where we're still in the winter time, where there's more time to talk and evaluate and do some presentations. There were a number of delays for the process going forward on several ends. Some of them are at the state level with the WEDC. The negotiations that we had crafting and putting forward the DA, it pushed the timeline much closer in the construction window. So when they need to go, they're trying to be able to get in the ground still in this calendar year, so it definitely tightened that up. It's something that we make strong suggestions, and we learned a little more from this project as well, so we'll look to try and better refine our processes and try and work on a more front-loaded way to present these. We would welcome any ideas from council as well. To some extent, we do have to follow the terms of the NDA that was signed with the WDC, although we have clear areas in which we can move forward that are mandated as a municipality and local government. But it's a process that we're trying to get better at to see how to accommodate some of these issues that we have. It's always a balancing act to try and strike a balance to make sure that the community hears and sees about it in a timely manner.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? I just have a question kind of related to that, and that's, we have a Sustainability Advisory Committee that, obviously a lot of the pieces of this that were discussed were sustainability related, and obviously they have a work plan that we approve and everything, but how do you see the Sustainability Advisory Committee potentially being involved in these types of development agreements or these decisions in the future, kind of going off of the question of how do we involve the public more and earlier?
That's a good question, and it's certainly something we can take a look at. Obviously, a project, and depending on the project type, there may be projects that don't even come forward to council. If they are a project that fits within existing zoning, it becomes a site plan review and approval on site, which is actually done at the Plan Commission level. And if the project is of the right type, it's administratively approved because of the new zoning LDOs. We can take a look at where it's good to get input. I think what's helpful is as broader policies defining what industries the community is supportive of, what they like to see, what development they'd like to occur, what they feel is important to the community in terms of job providers is probably the best guidance that policy groups and organizations can provide. That lets us know there's a number of businesses we already manufacturers we already avoid automatically. We don't pursue anything that traditionally is heavy industrial, particularly like biofuels, chemical manufacturing. Those are things that are heavy industrial. They have high costs. They have high discharge rates. I've had projects come forward in other communities where the required emission sheet is 4 and 5 pages of what is going out in their waste stream. We don't even respond to projects like that. We get inquiries all the time and we turn them down. We just don't even respond. So we are taking that into account as the values of the community and what the community would like to see. As the city sets policy and defines what they like to see from employers, we can continue to define those broader policies, which means that the companies that we do engage with and start working with are already conforming to some level with direction from council and some of our advisory groups. That might be the simplest way to do it. The other concern is always when you talk about volunteer groups and you're talking about very sensitive, potentially corporate secrets, corporate information that is protected, it becomes challenging when you have groups that are in and out. They're not controlled by staff. They can potentially see information get out that shouldn't get out as well.
All right. Well, thank you. Unless there are any other questions, I think we can move this
Thank you.
and move on to discussion. Thank you so much. So on a motion by Councilmember Worthman and seconded by Councilmember Miller, this item is moved. Is there any discussion? Appears that Councilmember Mboga is first. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I want to start by thanking Luke, Anson, our Director White, and all the economical department. Thank you. I'm not patient, waiting for 3 years, patient. So you guys embrace the saying which says patient is virtual. You guys should embrace it a lot. I've talked to a lot of people in the community. There's appetite for this project, and I'm going to support it 100%. For me, I would like, because we had one public hearing, I prefer to postpone it to next council meeting so that the city resident would have more saying, because of this project is going to have a meaningful impact for many years to come or for many generations to come. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Mboga. Yeah, we'll just move on with the discussion to Councilmember Otto.
Thank you, Council President Gregor. Just wanted to address some concerns from some of my constituents regarding the environment and environmental stewardship. It makes sense that people would have concerns. We're talking about building a large industrial operation in town, and it's really good that we investigate these environmental concerns. And as officials, we're trusted with helping ensure clean air, safe water, adequate tree coverage. But to make this stewardship happen, to build an environmentally sustainable city, it takes revenue. It takes revenue to support urban forestry, to create walkability and foster urban diversity. And this project will help bring the revenue we need to be environmental stewards. I'm very pleased with this company having investigated it, and I agree that it's going to have a minimal impact for a company this size. And I do think it'll be a great fit for our city and help make it possible to be the greener, more walkable, more sustainable community that we want to be. So for this, I'm in full favor of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Otto. And next is Councilmember Serrano.
Thank you, Council President Gregor. I really appreciate, again, very thankful for the presentations, the answering the more detailed questions that came in since yesterday. It helps to clarify things in my mind. I personally, a couple of things. One, and someone mentioned it last night, but I've been thinking about this a lot. When we think about our water treatment and our wastewater treatment capacity and using some of that capacity with a real paying customer, what are the impacts of that? And I understand people are worried about their rates going up, but in fact, someone made the argument, and I can see how the more users you have and the more customers you have for the whole infrastructure of your water treatment and your wastewater treatment actually spreads that cost out more and insulates us more from price increases and cost increases for water and wastewater. So and it seems like we have ample capacity. It's not taking us right up to the edge of like, this is the most we can handle. We planned ahead. The city planned ahead, built ahead, so that we can have kind of more receptivity to this kind of a larger customer. So that's one piece on the rates that strikes me. The other thing is the product itself. I mean, I'm not entirely sure of all the specific products that are going to be produced here, but my understanding is that these are going to be used in sort of alternative food and consumer food products, whether they be for animal feed, but also for human consumption that can be as alternatives to, for example, alternative meats. And the environmental impacts of the meat industry is not not insubstantial. I'm not here to preach that everybody should be vegan, but there are trade-offs there. If we can have industry that supports alternatives that really have, I think, very valuable environmental consequences down the road in terms of just overall methane production and you know the feed for the animals and all of that. If we can provide alternative sources of food for humans and animals that are more plant-based, that's very interesting. And I think that is a really interesting industry for us to play in here in Eau Claire, and I can see how it can create more sort of adjacent businesses and industries to also be coming to a place like Eau Claire. And in that sense, it does seem to really align with our values as a community. So those are two things that I think have me actually pretty excited about this project. And so those are my observations.
Thank you. Move on to Vice President Schoen.
Thank you, Council President Gregert. I'll be brief. Others mentioned some of the points that I was going to touch on, but the one thing that stood out to me through this process and the feedback we heard from constituents, which I really appreciate, actually really love, is that people had such an eye on our water use as a community and are really concerned about that. I agree. I think our natural resources are very precious and we need to be good stewards of them. And I want to share, though, I'm excited to support this development agreement tonight. And in particular, as it relates to the water use piece, that I just am hoping that everybody in the community has comfort around after further discussion. So again, talking about 200,000 gallons per day being used, but this company plans to return 199,000 gallons of that per day to the system. So it's unlike other developments that have come to council in the past, it's not extractive, right? We're not talking about taking the water and removing it entirely from the system. This development will return the vast majority, almost all of the water that they're utilizing on a daily basis back to the system. And so I just wanted to emphasize that point and share that I'm excited to support this development.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Schoen. Any other discussion or, Councilmember Mboga?
I would like to make an amendment.
Like an amendment?
Thank you.
Or,
Thank you first. Yeah, I would like to postpone it for 2 more weeks. And we can vote on that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Mboga. There's a motion to postpone by 2 weeks to put it on the agenda, presumably with a public hearing the night before.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a second from Councilmember Worthman. Is there any discussion on the postponement to 2 weeks from, Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Council President. I would not be in favor of postponing this. I've received adequate feedback from the community. A lot of people have written in the amount of time that we've had so far, and I think all the questions have been answered by staff, either here or I've done my best to answer people's questions. Also, as city council members, we're elected to represent the people. We're not open democracy, which everybody votes all the time. We need to make decisions for the city. I think we have had all of our questions thoroughly answered, and I think we're ready to move forward. Also, I don't want to give any mixed signals to the company that is wanting to build here. If we keep, postponing this might, show them that we're not really invested in this proposal. So I don't see any good reason. I think everybody who's had questions has written in, had them answered. So I will not be supporting postponement.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Miller. And I know we had movers on this too, so do they want to speak to the point a bit more, perhaps? Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to postpone by 2 weeks? Okay. So clerk, could you please call the roll on that?
Councilmember Schoen,
No.
Serrano,
No.
Worthman,
No.
Brewster,
No.
Gregor,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Imboga,
Aye.
Miller,
No.
Otto,
No.
Reed,
No.
Right, and that motion to postpone fails 1 to 9. So we'll go back to the main item for discussion. Is there any further discussion on the development agreement? Well, I guess I have a couple things to share. I mean, I do understand the concern about, as I think several council members have mentioned, that we really don't have a lot of time to engage the public on this, and I think the word engagement is like the word that it, we need to, I feel like we need to prioritize, some proactive ideas and discussion around how to maybe have a longer timeline, but maybe we mostly just need to figure out how to use the time that we have for as meaningful engagement as possible with the public, and making sure that people understand what is being proposed, because it is not a very long timeline. Like I had to put a lot of things aside to be able to focus on doing my due diligence on this, and I think a lot of other members have to do that, and it's hard for the public sometimes to fully digest these types of major opportunities or proposals. So especially ones of this magnitude, which really is an incredible proposal, and something that really our economic development community and a lot of other aspects of our city and region and our state, we're involved with, and I really want to show appreciation for all that work, and yeah, it's a very exciting thing. So, if there's no other discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Serrano,
Aye.
Worthman,
Aye.
Brewster,
Aye.
Gregor,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Imboga,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Otto,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Yeah. Congratulations. So we have some other items in a different category, ordinances for action. And the first item is number 20. We have ordinance amending Table 8, entitled Parking Prohibited of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire, to add parking restrictions on Venture Drive for business access and vehicle maneuverability. And we did have a discussion about this yesterday in presentation from Director Ness, and she's here again today, so thank you, to see if there are any questions before we move into discussion and a potential vote. Thank you, Director Ness. Do you have any more additional information to present?
No additional information, and I received no questions related to the item since yesterday as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? All right. So, on a motion by Vice President Schoen and seconded by Councilmember Imboga, this item is moved. Is there any discussion on this parking prohibition? All right, seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster,
Aye.
Gregor,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Imboga, Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, City Clerk. One more item under this category is item number 21, ordinance amending specific sections of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire titled 17 Land Development Official Zoning Map and Title 19 Stormwater. And yesterday we had a presentation from Mr. Noel, our planning manager. You're welcome to come up if you have any additional information or if council has any questions to share or ask.
Good afternoon, President Gregert and council members. Yeah, if you have any questions, I know that there's a lot of material there for amendments. Happy to answer any of those questions or clarify. I did want to call out, we have one additional amendment that we caught kind of last second as a top of bank definition, so that's in your cover sheet, that language.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Noel? Okay, thank you. So to move, I just want to move the item first. That's okay. So the, by a motion from Councilmember Otto and seconded by Councilmember Reed, this item is moved, and is there any discussion? Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. Per recommendation of the Plan Commission, I would like to amend this ordinance to include a missing definition in Chapter 17.14.23, top of bank, the point at which the slope changes from less than to greater than 20%.
And I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Miller and seconded by Councilmember Brewster on the top of bank amendment. Does everybody fully understand that amendment or have any questions about it or any discussion? Okay, do you think Councilmember Worthman, do you turn on your microphone, please?
Can the mover help me understand it?
Yeah, so we have just a question from Councilmember Worthman just about, to explain the amendment, Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Council President. If you look at the cover sheet item, that would be on page 111 of the packet, in the background summary, and there's a section where it says the Plan Commission on April 6th recommended unanimous approval and added a missing definition in Chapter 17.14.23 top of bank. So top of bank needs to be defined in these ordinance changes, and it was not, but it was caught. And per recommendation of staff and the Plan Commission, they recommend adding the definition of top of bank to the section here. And that's all I know about this one. I would defer to Plan Noel for anything further on that.
Well, yeah, Council President, could I have the floor?
Yeah, Councilmember Worthman.
So I'm just trying to understand I understand this idea that's like, okay, as soon as it reaches 20%, but for what purposes or when is this used? Because if this is about buffers, it might make sense to actually provide more of a buffer back from the top of bank, or to have a definition that includes, more space than just 20%. I guess that's my question is this definition as inclusive for the reasons that we want?
Yeah.
I'll give an example. We had a development happen when I was on Planning Commission, and top of bank was defined as kind of the place where the slope turned up. But the development wanted to come right to the edge with tree clearing and lawnscape. And so actually one of the things our Planning Commission said is maybe it makes more sense to not go all the way to the top of bank, but to actually include enough buffer so that, for example, runoff from a given development has some buffer zone from the top of bank. So I'm trying to understand, what does this pertain to? Is this around, is this the best definition?
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Worthman. Planning Manager Noel, would you like to answer that question, please?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Worthman. And yeah, this is actually a definition for setbacks. We have additional buffers that you enhance with the LDO, 75 feet, for example. And so that could supersede this, but this deals with a building in terms of our waterway guidelines that we actually codified with the LDO. So we just missed this actual definition. So it was something that we already used in the past. We just want to make sure it's folded into our ordinance so that we can use it. In the absence of this, we were just using it as the policy in the last 6 months, but now we want to actually have it in the code. So that's why we caught it for you, if that helps.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Noel. And so is there any other questions or discussion on the amendment? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Councilmember Brewster.
Aye.
Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. So now we're back to the amended ordinance change, large package of work that was put into this. Any discussion, any further discussion on that? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gregor.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Imboga.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Otto.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Schoen.
Aye.
Serrano.
Aye.
Worthman.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
All right, and that passes unanimously. Now we have two items that are ordinances for introduction. So unless people want to take action today, they will not be acted upon. So I will just read them. So those are items number 22, ordinance to rezone property from UR and URP to UC located at 918, 926, 93, and 936 Menominee Street. And so we'll save any presentation on it until the next meeting. And then the next item is item number 23, ordinance amending Table 1 entitled Speed Limits of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eau Claire to change the speed limit on Locust Lane from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. So those items will be on our agenda in 2 weeks for public discussion on the Monday night before, 2 weeks from today. And so the next item on the agenda is announcements and updates. And this is from the city, or acting city manager, or from city council. I do have one announcement, and that's just to clarify for everybody from our earlier discussion that we will not have a council meeting in a month, roughly. The Monday, May 25th public discussion was canceled in the earlier action of the body today. So just so folks can cancel that on their calendars. Does any other council members? Councilmember Miller, you have an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Council President. On your desks, you should find the Eau Claire City County Health Department Annual Report for 2025. I've had the pleasure to serve on the Board of Health for the City Council for the past, now going my 4th year, so many of you haven't had the opportunity to serve there, but this is like basically a brief look into the day-to-day public health work that's happening around Eau Claire County. It's been kind of streamlined and kind of made easier to read. It's less dense, but covers more data, and there's like some takeaways from each page at the bottom, just information about our community. So I encourage everybody just to look through this here and see the work that the the health department does. It's also available on the website in electronic form.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Miller. And Councilmember Imboga.
Yeah. I hope I will see you guys tomorrow. The ECOMA, the Mang Mutual Association, they have a sexual assault awareness walk, 4:30 to 6:30. So people walk from their main office by Claremont, you walk to Half Moon Lake, then you go through the lake, boardwalk, and back. So it's 4:30 to 6 o'clock tomorrow, if you guys are available. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Mboga. All right. So it seems like we're ready for, we have our acting city manager, Solberg.
Just a couple of quick announcements. Again, just to remind everybody that this weekend, May 2nd and 3rd, is the Eau Claire Marathon, with the actual marathon on Sunday the 3rd. May 28th, we have Eggs and Issues with the Chamber of Commerce. That is going to be the legislative recap, so that's a little over a month off. So let the manager's office know, and we can get you signed up for that if you would like. May 10th, I just want to express a happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there, well deserving for all they do for those that rely on them, and wish them the best on that day. And then I would like to just thank outgoing City Manager Hirsch for her 4 years of service, and thank her for being a wonderful coworker and boss. And I wish her the best in her endeavors, and wish her continued friendship. So that's all.
Thank you, Acting City Manager Solberg. All right. Well, without objection, our meeting is adjourned. And we do have a work session afterwards. So thank you all for being here. We will take maybe a 10-minute break. Is that okay? Because I think some of the press want to talk about some things. So we'll rejoin in 10 minutes.
Tell me a little bit about the decision, your thoughts about the council's choice.
Council,
Such a wide variety of sizes.
Members. I started with a map, just to give you guys an idea of where we do own land. Some of it's very big spaces, like the well fields up north. Some of it's really small, and we would never be able to do anything on it. Like if you look along the river, there's a lot of red along there because we'll try to buy property along the river so that there's not development going on there and kind of create a buffer ourselves. What we did is we went in, identified city-owned properties, and then we eliminated any parcels that didn't meet our minimum lot size. So all those little ones or the long, narrow ones and stuff, we eliminated those right off, so we weren't spending any time on them. We eliminated lots that were in use that we felt the use wasn't gonna change. So like we own Phoenix Park, that use isn't gonna change. So we're not gonna explore that one as a possibility for housing. Some of them, it may look totally vacant, but they have utilities running under them. Or like the park over here, there's a restriction on the deed that we would need to dig into more. So we kind of said no on that one right away because there's some other ones that we can move on quicker. And depending on that deed restriction, we may never be able to touch that. So it's just going to take a lot more research. Then we analyzed elevations. So if the lot was big enough, but it had a 30-foot difference from the front to the back, we're not going to build a house on it. Could we dig into it? Probably, yeah, but we're going to add a lot of cost to a house if we do something like that. So we checked those to make sure it was also suitable. Yes, floodplains, anything zoning, all of those things we went in, looked at, created a map and kind of just kept whittling it down until we got to properties that we felt were good. Then our thought was we would do this twice a year. Sometimes we might come with 5 properties, sometimes we might come with 20, depending on the type of properties. So once we get to that part, then we send them to engineering, utilities, other departments to say, hey, will you take a look at these? Utilities, do you have anything we may be unaware of running through here? Any concerns? Engineering, are there any concerns? I'll show you one in a little bit that we were all excited about, and then engineering kind of squashed it for us. So there's many different things we have to look at before we even get to the place of this is a possibility. So we'll come twice a year if you guys want us to continue doing this. We didn't bring the handout. We have started a community outreach plan. I'll talk about that in a minute and get feedback from you guys if there's additions you want to that. So I'm going to go through some examples, and this is from the first two will be from the batch we're looking at first. This is Cameron Park. We actually had residents come to us about this park. They said the area where the X is, there's never anybody playing in that area. The other side of the park, it gets used, but that area is just underutilized. So we looked at if we drew a line across there, we could fit probably at least 6 single-family homes. We might be able to get 6 twin homes. Depending on the size of the units, we could even, if we did cottage courts, maybe get up to 24, depending on how it was laid out. We would look at this as probably more a single family or duplex, given the context of the neighborhood. And this one, we would look at affordable, but we might sell them also a little higher than the very bottom rate, because then we can generate some income revenue to upgrade their park too. So all of those will be conversations as we go through the process, as we talk to the community that'll be directly impacted by them, each one, and you guys, do you want us selling this for, if these come up and they're single family homes, 300,000, and before you gasp, that's really affordable if we're building new, and probably gonna be hard to get to depending on what's built. Or do you want them selling them for 310 so that maybe we can make $60,000 for the park? So there's options with every property. Some of the lots might be really, really good lots that people would pay a higher amount for. So we might look at those as selling at market rate to generate income for affordable housing. So we'll discuss them all with you guys as we bring them forward and with the community to make sure we're doing what you guys want with them. So this is Cameron Park and our thoughts on that. We would not make the entire park excess land. We would just make this end of it. And then we would put it on a website. We would probably break down the lots first. This one we might put up there like that and let a developer come and show us how they would like to lay out houses. So, but these would be all new units. So that's just increasing our housing inventory, which is much needed right now. Next, Steffi Road. I don't think this one was in the last batch, but this is one we've had a lot of interest in. If you look at Steffi Road, right on the corner there is looks like a huge vacant lot. I don't know if we have a. Steffi and Jessers. Yeah, that one right there. That one there. Everybody see? You guys can. So that one, when this little area was originally built, that was put in for stormwater retention. Since that time, there's been a lot of upgrades to the road, more development occurring in this area. So sewer and curbs and everything's been added, so this has been evaluated. It's not needed for stormwater anymore. So being that need's not there, we could probably fit 3 to 6 new units on that property versus us sending, so each of these properties, we have to maintain them. So we send somebody out to mow it, do any other work that's needed out there, so we wouldn't have to do all that stuff anymore either. This one was in the packet. This is up by the well fields. There's actually 2 areas that we would look at potential development. The top part up there and then the side. One thing about this, they all have water and sewer already subbed in. They were planned to be housing when they built out this development. Why it didn't happen, I'm not sure, but it was planned for both of these sides to be housing. Looking at this, the top, they do kind of have a little bit of a view. We might sell those at market rate to put more money back into affordable housing. They're a little more prime. The ones on the side, we'd look at a more affordable. Again, affordable is probably going to mean $300 to $350 depending on the type of house and how it's built. But those are highly affordable compared to what new builds are going now. Duplexes are going around $4. Homes at the low end are going for $450. We had a developer break it down as far as he could with only covering his cost, and I think he was still at $360 when he did that. So that was 0 profit on building something.
Councilmember Worthman,
Yeah,
just a
we could
reminder to
do-
use the microphones. So.
Yeah, we can do 4plexes, we can look at these anyway. So this area alone could probably fit 20 to 40 new units depending on what we end up doing here. If we want to do single family, probably be closer to 20. Duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, we could probably get a lot higher amount in there.
It's probably a good time to add, council would have twice review of any project that comes forward. Initially would be the excess land declaration on the sites that then allows us to put them out to the wild, so to speak, to put them on our website and invite developers to apply for those. Council would still will be reviewing every single proposal to see if it conforms and fits with what you envision occurring with the lots that are owned by the city, and council would approve every single sale. So if you don't like an approval that comes forward or a proposal that comes forward, council can turn that down and we can fine tune, invite another developer to try and submit something better that better fits what you think is a suitable touch for that. So council will have automatically 2 touches on every project that would go forward.
All right, next one. You guys actually voted on this one at your last council session, and that's why I put this one in here. There's 2 lots there that we own. We held on to them for a long time to see if Mayo had any interest. There's not really room for parking there. They didn't have any interest. We kept holding on to them just in case. After they told us no about 10 times, we're like, all right, we're not gonna hold on to these anymore. So these, you guys did declare excess a month or so ago. Corey Lee brought you guys a thing to straighten out the alley, to change the right-of-way. So that alley will be straightened out, which will correct that other lot line to come down more. And we're currently negotiating, legal is an agreement with Habitat for Humanity, and they intend on building 2 duplexes. So this will add 4 new units right across from the hospital. Might be great for, nurses, new doctors, stuff like that, being close and more affordable than what we're seeing. Another example, this is one we were all excited about. We're like, yeah, we can get a house on here, if not a duplex, pretty easy. We thought a driveway might be a little tough, but we were pretty, us planners, we can make anything happen. We were pretty sure we could squeeze it in at the top. We couldn't. There's not enough sight line, so there's no way a driveway can go on this property. There's no alley. There's no other option. So this property's kinda stuck there. You know, if it was up to me, I'd recommend that we offer it to one of the neighbors to give them a bigger yard. Could be a nice place, Dave's not here, but for a little roundabout to connect those streets, or to just connect them. In Kansas City, my neighborhood association bought a vacant land and we turned it into a park that had what we wanted there, so that could be an option, or making it a pollinator garden, because our staff still has to go out and regularly mow and maintain this. So is there a way we can remove that from that also, so they're not driving around hitting all these little lots at once? So this one we can't do a house on, but I just wanted to show you some of the stuff that we're going through.
Could you just use your mic, please?
Could it be a car-free home?
Our zoning doesn't allow that. I don't know if there's a conditional use per option, but I think long-term, that makes it difficult to sell. So if an owner would buy it as a car-free, but then they go to sell it, maybe 20 years from now when we're not all driving our own cars. But I think with our zoning, it's gonna be a tough one to sell. Plus, they'd have to find somewhere to park, and it wouldn't be too
I'm
close.
saying for someone who doesn't need a car, doesn't want
Or-
a car.
Yeah, like Jeremy, you can buy it and build.
I could see us trying to promote this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd have talked to, yeah,
It's a
I'd have
Not
to,
able to buy anything from the city as a council member.
we could talk to planning and see if there's an option for a conditional use permit. I don't think that would qualify.
So right now, our zoning requires driveways?
Requires parking.
Parking.
To make sure there's enough parking and we don't have our streets just constantly lined. They did reduce those, but yeah, we do have a parking requirement.
And Billy, does that include on-street parking adjacent to the property? That would count?
It has so many have to be on the property. So let's say it's gonna be like a 4-bedroom, it has to have so many on the property, but they can utilize X amount, on street to fulfill the whole parking. So
So, but
there,
it's,
there does have to be some,
I guess I'm kind of curious, like, cause I have a Eastside Hill home with no alley and it's just on-street parking. Is that not currently?
that would have been
I'm-
zoning at, when that house was built. But ours do have minimum
Interesting.
parking requirements.
There are some allowances for publicly available parking within so many feet of the residential unit. In this case, so there's no parking, on-street parking allowed in here, so there's no public parking anywhere near that space. So it would have to have, by code, it has to have some.
Yeah, this one's on the curve and you can't park there,
Yep.
so.
Yep, so reasons why sometimes we can't do what we see as an option for some of those spaces.
All right, I'll do one more example. This is one we were excited about. Leah actually brought this one to us. She was looking at something here and she's like, why don't you guys build on that parcel there? It's like, oh, great idea. So we looked at it, sent it out, and utilities came back. There's something running through that lot. So now we all know why there's a vacant lot right in the middle there. So we can't build on that one. So when we go through them, we have a bunch that we're like, yep, we could build on them, and then as we start whittling them down, we find stuff like this. Yep. So for outreach, our thoughts were each time we bring a batch to council, we would have one large public meeting, probably at the library, so it's centralized. We'd set up, do it like open house, set up stations with each project. So like this one, I think it had a total of 4 or 5, but that one, is 20 to 40 houses alone. So it really depends on how many lots we think we're gonna get and the time we're gonna spend as staff getting that going. We will direct mail property owners within 300 feet of each property so that they are aware, and then we use our public notice and social media to let the entire community know in case somebody who doesn't live nearby wants to come and get input. And then we'd compile all the input we get and put that in staff report as we bring them forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess we kind of manage ourselves for this for the most part, I think. So, but it seemed like.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know the first step is excess land, and then putting it out to developers, like what can people build here? Do we have, as any part of our vision, like what ends up happening? Like does the city retain ownership of these properties? Do we want to, do we want to have them be rentals? Do we care if they're rentals or for sale, for home ownership? Do we want to use this as opportunities to do some experimental energy efficiency models, so to speak, to showcase our 2050, carbon neutral goals. Anyway, I'm just thinking that there's a lot of possibilities here, and I don't want to constrain us to thinking single-family home. The other thing that, of course, strikes me is all of these areas would really be amenable to more density. So, anyway, those are some of my thoughts.
And I would say yes to all of that, depending on where the property is. We want to look at the neighborhood. We don't necessarily want to put a 4-story multifamily in an area that's all single family.
So
maybe.
I think I want to question that a little bit.
I'm okay with that.
Because we redid our zoning
Yep.
to effect change.
Right, and we will
Like-
where we're able, and where developers are
But like,
interested in building
even like
that
the Cameron
kinda-
Park, I know it's all single-family home, but why wouldn't we build something very dense there? Just because the neighboring area is single-family homes doesn't mean we don't want to, I mean, that's a
We're-
prime location
We're open
for
to
density.
it, but the community, we also have to consider what we'll approach all options that are available, but,
Approach we could take with council would be if there's certain criteria that you find favorable for a project, we could specify those in where we post the site saying that these are criteria that council finds attractive in redevelopment projects, and that can be the basis of your review of individual proposals, whether or not you sell a site to a particular developer or project. Provides a very good metric to help benchmark. It's quantified, it's listed on the website, and can help guide your decision when you decide whether the particular proposal is suitable for that site or not. We've always tried not to get too specific. We found, and we learned this through the RDA lot sales and the different projects, that the more we narrowly define a project, the fewer and fewer people we saw actually submit proposals against it. A lot of developers feedback we got from them was that, what you described is really not me. It's really not what I do. It's not what I do well. So I just don't even bother submitting an idea for it. We found that if we gave general parameters and then invited them to submit a proposal, and then we took those proposals to the RDA board, they can look at and say, this does fit our vision for what that site is, or it does fit well with what we envision for this area. We'll move forward and do an agreement with that project. So we could certainly use that same process to take council's input on criteria and kind of drive project design.
Yep, and we've considered things like, if we use the Affordable Housing Fund to build or put manufactured or modular homes, and then having the housing authority take them over so that their housing authority's not quite ready for that, and we'd have to be able to fund the builds. If we're giving them out to, not necessarily giving, if developers are coming, they're gonna fund the build and they're going to sell it. We could fund some builds and then sell the whole house ourselves, to avoid some costs there too. But yeah, we're open, especially innovative. I'd love to see that happen. We go into a conference later this summer where they're going to have a 3D concrete print demo.
I just saw a bunch of them in our daughter's town. It's a lot of their 3D printing homes, and they are amazing.
And I'd love to see one built, have somebody live in it for a year, get feedback from them, find
The
out, you know.
efficiency, the
Yeah.
energy efficiency in those homes is crazy. I forget, but because I'm not a builder, but the R factor.
Claire, your microphone's not on.
Sorry, the R factors on the walls and the ceilings, and the roof was, I mean, unheard of what you can do with anything else. Those.
Yep. Yeah, we visited the hub with the developer. We could do one of these properties set up like this. We'd do an agreement with somebody who would manage it, or sell it to somebody who would want to manage something like it. So we have a ton of things. We'll look at each property, what's most suitable, any criteria you guys give us, what neighborhood feedback is, and go from there.
I have two questions. One, would the Cameron Park one, for example, is that something where we could maybe start with like maybe a third of that and request that somebody give us a submission idea for like a garden court or a carriage court as like an increased density option? I'm a little bit loath to totally cut that other street off from access to Cameron Park, so people have to go all the way around, especially if maybe that's part of.
We would, something like that, we would include like something in the middle that's a path through to the park or
So,
something like that.
During the court plan reviews and study, in one of the work sessions that council had here last summer, when they showed how a park space could be divided down in fund use, this was the park that they used as an example on that. And they included specifically designated trail access from 9th Street into the remaining park, can be left on either end of the boundary. So there's now, instead of just cutting through grass, there's a hard trail that the neighborhoods to the east could walk past the developments. There's certainly ways to accommodate any troubles that council would have, or it's, you develop two small lots out of it. There's
Yep.
certainly
But
council's
yes, we
discretion
can,
in terms of density
we
and
can break it up
project size.
however.
The other question I had was about, like, do we have, like, heat maps that are developed for land and tax revenue sort of stuff? Can we look at the values, and in places where it's under X, maybe that's where we sell it for, like, low-income development, and where it's above X, then maybe it would be a better use of the land to sell it to somebody that would build something that we could get a lot of tax revenue that we could then maybe divert into ongoing affordable housing efforts.
Yep, love that.
Because I think, you know, I guess I don't know for sure what type of houses, but at least on part of the stuff over by the wells, it seems to me that that's a relatively high tax area, or a high
That's-
home value area.
That's why we were thinking like the top side and then coming down the side with,
If you go up.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even having your backyard look out into the park is gonna be a major selling point in terms of property value. So, I mean, those are ones that I guess personally I would consider more for just, sale at market rate to bolster our funds to do more projects in places where land costs are a bit lower.
and that would make sense up there too, because it's not really a job center area, and we should probably focus affordable when we can on closer to our job centers, to where, people have more options for work and, if they want to bike or walk to work, it
Fewer transportation
affordability
expenses,
makes
yeah.
sense when makes more sense closer to, job centers and transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Because this involves parks, I wanted to hear what our Waterways, Parks, and Urban Forestry Committee's feedback was on this that we should be aware of.
So we went to them first to kind of get what they felt, to kind of help us moving forward, because Cameron Park and the well fields would be in their purview. It ended up, when it got on the agenda, I had a conference to go to, and Aaron had a speaking session, so unfortunately, neither of us were there. We probably should have pulled it, but I don't know if Todd clued you in on more of the feedback.
It wasn't listed in the business agenda, so it wasn't a votable item. They had some of the same inquiries and some of the same questions that council had brought up when these were approached, is public input, the surrounding neighborhoods, which led to the concept of how to address gathering public feedback and neighborhood feedback. So that would be, and they would be part of any discussion in relation to that. Is
If it's
they
a
are
park.
required recommendation if it's a park, or within certain access, some of the former stormwater detention sites may actually require them to go through them too. So we'll have to evaluate each one and do it appropriately.
So just so I understand, we're the big picture here. You're not asking for specific feedback on parcels. You're trying to help inform a process, and then that would be used. But that even that process that is written up, we'll have another go at being able to give our thumbs up on it. Okay. So yeah, two more on developing this process.
Tonight, we just want to make sure you guys do still want to move forward with the excess land project.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with the start of what we have as a outreach plan, I can throw something more detailed together tomorrow to send to you guys to make sure. We did talk about, having a meeting for each property. But let's say in the fall, we don't have big ones, we just have small ones, we bring you 10. That would be 10 public meetings, and that makes it,
That's- yeah, it's
preparing materials, going to the meeting, cleaning up, all that, makes it very difficult for staff to.
Yeah.
So it would slow us down, that's why we thought one central meeting, plus mailing specifically to the homes directly impacted would be our
Yeah.
best option.
That makes a ton of sense. Thanks for clarifying. So there's a few things that come to mind. And first and foremost, I like the idea of excess land sale, but using it as a leverage point for trying to fill the housing gaps that we have. I'm not necessarily interested in making it super easy to develop market rate, because I do think there's a lot of cornfields that surround our community that are going to be developed into market rate. But if we have a role in, maybe we sell at a real low rate because you're coming in with a fourplex with affordable units, I'm more interested in that. So the product is going to matter. That's for how I feel about it. I want us to think holistically in our community about what areas we're looking at and thinking about. So, like, certain neighborhoods maybe don't have as much access to parkland. I want us to be careful in neighborhoods that don't have as much access to parkland, that we're maybe putting the brakes on, thinking that those might be good ideas or good parks to potentially develop, or we do it in a really smart way. Otherwise, I think we're going to run into a lot of there's going to be a lot of resistance in those neighborhoods. This is one example. I could imagine a lot of resistance just to turning parkland over, even if you support affordable housing. It still could create some tension. Another thing is that I think it's going to be easier for us to do the singular parcels. That's just going to go smoother, I think, because I have a few in my neighborhood, East Hill. Those are just going to be easier to flip, I think, to projects. I also think that there's some benefit in looking at, from a perspective of, we talked about this a little bit with our Century Code, but the corridors idea of like making sure that there are greenway corridors throughout our community and keeping continuity where we can with those. And so we should think about that as well in how we decide, like, okay, well, there's a few corridors actually in the community. One on the west side where we've turned it into a bike trail is a great example. There's excess land there that could have been flipped, but we didn't do that. We actually created a thoroughfare for like travel, an amazing bike trail. So like thinking about corridors as an important part of our community and maybe de-emphasizing those. I will share that I voted no on an excess land designation on Galloway and River Prairie. The council, it was like a 6-5 vote. The council voted yes to go forward on a development there, Galloway Flats, which we've all seen. But part of the concern there was I was feeling like this on a river, it's between two communities that are growing, And having park space that's accessible for people that are lower income in that area actually matters. And that was a tough call, and we ended up voting 6-5 to designate excess land. So those are the kind of things that are in my mind when you come forward with a policy. Parkland, we might want to put that on like, hey, you're coming in with a super affordable project. There's a ton of land in this park. Actually, there's one place that I think of. It's the North Riverfronts. People in the North Riverfronts don't want this developed, and I know that. But there's actually land right below the city shops. There's a parking lot there. And it's out of the floodplain, and it could be like an apartment or something on the river. Just an idea. But I think just trending away from parks and thinking about, are there other areas just like green spaces, unused areas? We have more than 2,000 acres of city land in this city, over 430 parcels. It's a lot. And I just feel like if we go after this and it raises community temperature, it's gonna like create problems for us, so.
Yeah. This is one of them that the neighbors came to us with the idea of using that part of the park. Not the association, people that live around the park. Came to us with this one, so that's why.
Sure.
We thought, well, yeah, that makes sense, it's a great one, we can do it, and maybe enhance the park so that the neighbors have a better park in the process.
Part of the screening process on the parks is feedback from the Parks and Recs maintenance folks who are doing the mowing on these spaces. The ones that have come forward, they've said that we see no movement or we see no use in these spaces. There's never anybody there. There's no activities scheduled or going through there. This is a space that could look to be a different use. And that part of that discussion, the neighborhood outreach, we'll gather input from the neighborhoods. That would be part of the staff reports. That would be part of the weigh-in factors. An approach like you'd referenced is if we bring multiple parcels together as a block and we have input on each parcel within the staff report, council could elect when reviewing that, let's move this parcel out of the block and talk about it separately. These are all fine. Let's vote on these as a block. If this one has other certain extenuating circumstances, we take that discussion up separately and maybe choose to not call it excess land. It provides a way to do it fairly streamlined, to not eat up a lot of time and time again coming forward on parcel here, parcel there, but make sure that council has solid input and can get feedback from the neighborhoods. So we can certainly adjust the process to make sure that it's meeting your requirements and needs.
And I would be cautious on parks too. This, I think's a great path forward, but I also feel if I lived in this neighborhood and it was made up like my neighborhood, it probably wouldn't be a park that's used at all, because most of my neighborhood is retired people. But someday somebody else is gonna be moving into that neighborhood so I think you see your parks go through cycles, but I think doing part of it makes sense to me, so.
Sure, yeah. Aaron, I like what you said there about, going to the neighborhood and when we're doing parkland to get the feedback from them, because you were saying like how this one here, no one's using it, no one's reserving it, but there's psychological and emotional benefits just from the visibility of green space. Even if you're not walking on that green space, it's beneficial to the neighborhood and the mental health of the people there. Yeah, definitely want to hear from the residents before we try to access any of the parkland. And then going with Claire said earlier, this is land that we own, and when we redid the Century Code, we intentionally put in the opportunity for a lot more dense development. And you're saying that sometimes you want to do something and a developer say, "Oh, that's not really my thing," but if it happens, you're going to have single family home next single family home, and I think this is a way to incentivize. Like we can sell for a rate where someone might say, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And also this gives us the opportunity to be the ones that normalize upscaling the density here. We can make the catalyst of, okay, I have a single family and I have a duplex here, and that's fine. And once the city gets used to it, then I think that we can get a catalyst to help developers kind of say, yes, I can do this too. So I really want to see us pushing the envelope on how much density we can get into these places here.
Yeah. Absolutely, those are great points. It's very good timing with the comprehensive plan update coming forward. We'll be defining how we envision the growth of different regions and segments in the community, so we can use that as a guide for proposals coming in for different areas. encouraging different housing types. That's one of the things we really hope could be accomplished through this process is we have heard from a lot of small builders and small developers that they have some interesting housing types that are popular elsewhere that the established guys that are not building here, and they can't compete with the Wurzers and the folks that buy chunks and they're aggressive in the market. This gives them an opportunity for some of these other folks who are really looking to bring different housing types to the community. And absolutely, I mean, the idea of different housing types, even densities. I think of a community with rolling hills, I look around, I'm like, why are there no more tuck unders cut into hill banks with tuck under garage?
Yeah.
Ground level connects to, second floor connects to the back. It's like you see that in steep terrain all the time, makes very efficient use of elevations. And you tell anybody that and they're like, oh no, nobody does that. It's like they do it in every community except Eau Claire that has rolling hills that are suitable for development in residential neighborhoods. So again, an opportunity where we control the land, we can help control some of the narrative.
Can I jump in real quick? I have to leave.
Yeah.
So I don't have any additional questions or comments. I just wanted to provide general support for the comments that have already been made. Very interesting presentation. I love what y'all are doing, and I just wanted to, before I dipped out, provide my support to the comments that other council members are making, and thank you for the presentation you put together.
I would ask Whitley, do you have any concerns or would like to see any shifts in how we're proposing to do the community outreach? We're modeling off of what we do for zoning changes with the direct mailing and the neighborhood association contacts. Any suggestions, or if you have some thoughts on that, email us and we're happy to help incorporate those.
I can share if I do. I generally don't. If I think of some, I'll pass them along, but off the top of my head, I don't have any concerns with the process and suggestions that you put together.
Thank you.
And to kind of piggyback on what Aaron said, I have developers emailing me probably weekly, asking, hey, do you have properties yet? Because they do want to try different things. And that's what a lot of them are looking at. Habitat's very excited for this program. They have a duplex build going on in Menominee. They're having difficulties getting qualified applicants for it. They have 2 qualified applicants sitting and waiting in Eau Claire for a build. They can get applicants in Eau Claire much easier than other communities because we're the biggest, job center. So they're very excited about it.
I have a thought on the Cameron Park one. What if you could orient something similar in size east to west? And have that be like sort of a longer sort of cottage court kind of thing there, and that would allow connection to both sides of the street.
We could look at that option. We would have to consider, what do we do with the basketball court, playground, or if we do it on the other side, the shelter.
Not going all the way.
A ring off 9th Street and loading around a ring just off of 9th Street.
Like an alley?
Sort of. I mean, I guess I don't know. I know we have carriage courts and garden courts in the thing. I guess I'm thinking a little bit more cottage courty, like what they do out in LA or something. That doesn't.
This is the sort of property that accommodates that type of development. That's what's intended to do, is this type of development. The model that AIR showed during the Corp study, based on current zone, they actually cut the park in half. They could fit 24 units in that half of the park under current codes, doing a very similar concept of part cottage court, part narrow longer lots with some very different housing types. The zoning code allows for definitely thinking very differently in terms of these spaces and provide some opportunity. So I guess again,
we can measure off going down one side. I know when I was a kid, our favorite thing was empty lots because we played a lot of baseball, football, stuff like that. So we can look at it and see how much it would impact the park if it makes it even clearer. But all the design elements we'll get into as we bring all those things to you guys to get ideas of what you guys would like to see on each lot, each parcel, how you might want them You know, do you want to split them up first, let the developers look at it as one whole and what they can do? Or, you know, so we'll bring all that detail back for you guys.
Absolutely do a hybrid of how you want to see these lots developed. It could be that these lots, developer proposal, submit us a proposal, we'll review them case by case. You could set aside certain lots saying, we want something very specific in these. And that can be a holdout to meet specifically your criteria set and waiting for developer to bring that forward. So a lot of opportunities to address how council would like to see that move forward.
It seems to me with some of these infill ones that are in especially single-family neighborhoods, that something that's higher density, but like a carriage or garden court would be a lot more integratable than like, you know, a 20-unit apartment building or something like that. And I think it would not impact the neighborhood nearly as much. But also, that's right by Council President Gregert's house, so I don't want him to be impacted too much.
Or maybe we do.
Or maybe we do.
So, good. I just want to say, if I could, on this Cameron Park, that I know the Neighborhood Association was very, very eager to create and propose a community garden here. So I know that has, like, people got some whiff of, what? That's our community garden. That's our community garden. So just be aware that is, that's out there as something that I think near term, a lot of the neighbors were wanting to see a community garden there. Sure.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, part of the process, I think what we should be open to is how we can, like, we want to make sure we're providing an opportunity for discussion that maybe is beyond maybe what we initially thought as possibilities, right? And it could be a garden, it could be like creating an amount of interest in a park that maybe hasn't had a lot of intentionality around it for a long time. And this park, so Cameron, for example, like has been around for like maybe 100 years. I don't know if we have an origin or history of each of our park parcels, but it's like my house is just one block to the north on 9th Street, and it just turned 100 this year. And I've seen, you know, a lot of these houses are from the 20s and earlier. Mine used to be a duplex, actually, so it just was converted into a single family, but most of them are single family, partly because they are so small. In this, I looked up all the different, I actually calculated when I moved into the neighborhood, I calculated the square footage based on our records of the average square footage of the houses in the neighborhood, which there were about 180 or so between like 11th and 7th and Vine and Cameron. And the average was about 1,000 square feet, which is actually like pretty much the smallest in the, like we do have such things as tiny houses in Eau Claire, as it turns out. There's some that are as small as 400 square feet. And actually I had some friends that rented the house just to the east of the X there. And the X is maybe a little bit of an ominous symbol for me, but to use maybe for the future. But that's a less than 600 square foot house, and we probably, I mean, I think you've been there, Andrew. We were parked in there. We had like 6 people in that, in one room. And that was about as many as you could fit in. You felt like you're having a sleepover or something just to have dinner, you know.
Yep.
But
when I moved here, there was a handful of one-bedroom homes for sale, all owned by the same person. And I was like, perfect. Then we started looking at them, and they were in the worst condition ever. They probably just needed, but it was a landlord not maintaining them. So I would personally be all about a little one-bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot, and I
Small.
remember one thing that they really liked about renting there was the fact that there was a park across the street, and not only the view, but the potential use. And like, I don't like it when we ever use the word like people never use or don't use something. So like, I would avoid. It's like that's what people say about the bus a lot, and I'm like on the bus, and I'm like, am I like, you know, I'm a person, right? You know, so like, and I've used a lot of this. I've used a lot of that part of the park, actually, because that's the closest part I can get to. And there are some interesting trees there, too. So, like, we would have to be talking about potentially taking down some oak trees that are probably within our you know, tree preservation realm. And then some of the things to keep in mind as we look at parcels in general is just proximity to other park parcels. As I think Andrew mentioned that. But like we have a situation where people have died as recently as last summer, like trying to cross Cameron Street, you know, on a bike, for example. And like that's the closest, like maybe getting over to that Buffington Park is the closest one. Maybe the Cannery Park is about as equal distance away. So, and those are actually pretty far away to get to from this particular neighborhood. So like, I think it is important that we look at how realistic is that people can actually get to other parks if this one is made smaller. And then another thing would be just the size of the houses and the size of the lots in proximity, because like if you have a very small house and you also have very small lots, like people probably don't, they kind of need to get out more and they probably don't have a lot of space to get out in. In this neighborhood kind of is some of the smallest houses and the smallest lots. The only neighborhood that I calculated that has slightly smaller houses is actually the Mount Simon neighborhood. And they have a lot more access to bigger park space than almost any neighborhood does. So that one sort of balances out a little bit more than this one. So that's one so I think I could submit some of these things like via email, but like I feel like I should be taking pictures when I see people in the park, you know, because there seems to be a perception that people don't really use it, and people like to have that larger space with their dogs, like, which is maybe not, it's not exactly a dog park, right? But that happens.
Get
And
rid
then,
of the
or
dog
people
anytime.
have like a kite, or they have, you know, that's a full-size soccer field, unless Larry and Boga tells me otherwise, but like that's a pretty big
You know, a parcel like
opportunity.
this could actually serve as a guide for council to request the developer to show some really unique ways to lay out a space. You show this parcel, say, we have this space we're interested in, we have these series of trees that are heritage trees in nature. Show us how you could do a unique development that brings affordable housing without disturbing the trees that are sitting in that space.
Yeah.
And keeps that green space value. So
Yeah.
it can be a challenge from council. Absolutely, it could be a challenge from council to developers to get
Yeah.
more creative in what they do. That's the biggest challenge we have, and we see this all the time when we connect with developers and we talk to the real estate groups. I encourage my team to make sure when you talk to realtors, talk to someone who's 20 years in the career and talk to someone who's 2 years in their career. Because the person who's been in it for decades tell you, this is why we build, because this is all people buy. And the developers reinforce that statement. But you talk to that young, brand new to the industry, they're like, the folks I'm working with, that is not what they want. That's the only thing you're providing. So they either have to buy it or they go back to renting. And
The parable of the town that only had burger wrap.
absolutely, absolutely. So we see that all the time, and other communities have built programs around enticing new housing types coming into the market, and it have worked. So it's a way for the council to throw down a gauntlet to the development groups and get creative and show us what you can do.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to say about this particular one, like, I think if we have a session for input, it should be at the shelter, because it's already there, and we have summer coming up, and people can go and walk around and see the scale of this thing, because it actually is a huge park, and that's probably why we're talking about it, you know. But that's also very unique for a neighborhood park to have that kind of space, and so it does need to be more utilized, and it does have opportunities, but I think like for something of this nature, where the neighborhood association already has annual events there, like you could actually have it there and you could walk the perimeter of it and actually talk through the ideas as opposed to just, you know, meeting at the library and having a lot more hypotheticals.
Absolutely.
Sorry. It might make sense to do that more, especially with this parcel, because it is a park, as opposed to some of the other ones that are just like excess land. So I'm not gonna advocate that you have a separate meeting for each parcel, but maybe this one in particular should have its own meeting.
Well, if we look to do, say, two meeting blocks of public input a year, we could have one this is all single parcels, single infill developments. This one is more complex projects, which requires more input from the community, which will then provide more guidance to council on a decision. So we could certainly make accommodations for that.
As you said previously that you were looking for guidance, so I guess I would also echo Charlie's sentiment that, you know, obviously the devil's in the details, but it seems like you're covering those fairly well, so I would say, you know, no reason to hit the brakes, just, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
If I could add one other small element, I want us to be cautious about which areas of the community are chosen. That, you know, when I first read the list, I thought, you know, we're not talking about anyone's park in the 3rd Ward. We're talking about one on the west side. And I just want us to be cognizant that, like, we should probably be thinking equitably about what areas of the community we decide someone's park needs to be smaller. Because you can imagine a Demler discussion, you know, and I just want us to think that part through too, that we're not looking at areas of maybe lower socioeconomic or connectedness, political power discrepancies.
Yep, I'll add a map layer of that to help us as we're going through them and decide. Yep.
Yeah,
We
part
have
of,
a lot of parcels to bring forward, so we can certainly make sure that each tranche that we bring forward for review includes mixes from all areas and all regions and not focused on any one.
So
Absolutely.
essentially, I think if you build any new building in this neighborhood, it would be one of the most expensive housing options in the neighborhood, just like on day one.
By definition.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if it's easy to do, because I'm not a GIS whiz, but, you know, when you bring this forward, if you're able to do it with some sort of like heat map, just so we can see, you know, the land value in a particular place, that might be helpful in helping us make a decision on if we want to do one of these innovative projects with the developers that we sort of have some guidance on, or maybe, you know, it would be better, like this lot could be worth $80,000 because it's right next to the well field. Maybe it would be better to just sell that to a developer, let them put a $600,000 house there, tax it, and take the $80,000 and do something, you know, better, more useful in a place that, you know, has the access that you're talking about, the transit, the services and things like that.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, this one does have transit too, which is nice. You know, it's a selling point for it, right?
Thanks, Jerry. I think we have the direction we need from the council. It looks like we're moving in a good direction. If you have any other thoughts or ideas, feel free to forward those on to Billy and I. We would love to continue to get input and continue to fine tune this process as we move forward.
And like I said, I'll send a more comprehensive outreach plan out to you guys tomorrow, and I'll add that some sites we will do direct for like sites like this. Make sure I get that in there, and I'll send that out to you guys tomorrow. So if you have any feedback, just reply back to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Appreciate your time.
Well,